Alright, so what we're going to do today is finishing up some material of the readings and leaping a little bit out into the world. This is extremely visual today. I want to talk about urban renewal because once we start building out the available land, we need to start rethinking the idea of use of land and how we renew or rehab certain areas. Yeah? There could be tear down a few homes and put a higher density on it as a smaller apartment, duplexes. Also means that you might actually, depending on your socioeconomics and your demographics change in the area, you might want to consider instead of single family homes, maybe do duplex or quads. Sorry. And urban renewal also means you're not just bound on residential use. Urban renewal can be the idea, like we heard in our landscape architecture guest lecture, that you repurpose an empty space, vacant space, to create a park. Move a parking lot into a park. Restructure space, let's say with the wave wall on the beach, so you get a little bit more structure in there. That's one thing. Urban renewal can also mean that building structure over time was deteriorating and you actually put new building structures in place now. Was it today or was it yesterday that the Las Olas gallery on Andrews and Las Olas is going to be demolished? Did you read that news? It was a sentiment, I think it was early this morning. Because that mall galleria concept failed. So part of urban renewal is they just started bulldozing it down and demo it. And over the next 3 years, they're projecting to build 1,200 apartments in that area. So think about that. If you know what's coming in the pipeline, there are 1,200 apartments now. If you're doing real estate development with a retail business component, you might want to take a look at your next grocery store in that area, because 1,200 apartments are more than just 1,200 people, a minimum 1,200 people, and you want to feed them. You want to open up a bar or a restaurant maybe next door.
General urban planning question. Is there like a threshold that determines if a space is suburban or urban, like a density percentage that makes something urban rather than suburban?
Yeah. The amount of density you build out and compared to our open space.
Right, but I'm saying, is there like a line where it's like if it's over 20%?
The census defines urban and suburban and rural by population density.
Okay.
Yeah, because you gotta have a bunch of people. But on the other side, you could have a city of 60 people, because the legal form determines it as a city. And it could be still just small village-style homes. I used to live in a state where one of the largest cities in the region was 461 people. It's a hub, because everyone who goes into the Sawtooth Mountains will stop at Idaho City for the pie and the food there. And half the city burned down in one night. Like Main Street was literally 8 buildings to the left and to the right, and half of that burned down. A quarter, technically. So it depends on the context. Rural in Texas is different than rural here. Even though the definition might be the same, but the appearance is different. So what is urban renewal in general? So the idea is, what I want to expose you guys to is 1 or 2 videos from the Philadelphia area. One is the old versus new presentation, and then basically put some thoughts in your mind to do better real estate development. Almost like real estate redevelopment. Because there sooner or later you're going to be part of a company that actually does that. Or you have leftover structures and transform that into a new context. So the idea of what is actually urban renewal. Let's see if this works. Click on it.
So Heidi, that's a good one. So Heidi,
And why are you? live demo in front of the audience and the playback function.
Not in Philly.
This is all over the world, all in the US.
That's the US?
That's probably Japan. Well, this video very quickly show. Let's do this in a different way. This basically shows the idea of old or bad. Old is not obsolete, yeah? But against new. I keep saying a bucket of paint can add a lot of value. You have seen a few examples here where just a little bit the facade change made a big difference to it. Yeah? Urban Renewal here also could see that there's this really blighted, torn down area, and they put like these 3-story high apartment buildings up. Yeah? That's short-term change. The next video I want to show here is remodeling and transforming a whole neighborhood.
In 1950, Philadelphia's oldest neighborhoods were caught in a spiral of abandonment and decay. As residents flocked to the suburbs, the brick row houses and crowded marketplaces of the old city faded into the shadows of its disappearing past. But urban planners were reimagining cities, and these historic blocks would soon become laboratories for change.
Urban renewal was created by the federal government after the Second World War because there was a broad national consensus that our cities need help. Federal money coming from Washington managed locally, it became a tool that city planners could use to recreate whole sections of the city.
City streets would be the planner's canvas, the Philadelphia of the future, made possible through relocation, demolition, rehabilitation, eminent domain, and money. Development Director William Ravsky made urban renewal a cornerstone of the city's political reform movement, while Edwin Bacon, Director of the City Planning Commission, led the charge.
Philadelphia is a singular case where the city planning director became the face of the urban renewal movement. Bacon had a real gift for speaking to journalists, business people, understanding a different way to reach politicians and elected officials. He was a real salesman and marketer.
But Bacon's combative approach proved controversial.
Ed Bacon was theoretically aware of communities, but he said, don't ask the community to generate something because they just don't know. I know what ought to be.
Urban renewal was in some ways the first chapter in contemporary gentrification. The area becomes transformed. It becomes wider, it becomes more affluent, it becomes more middle class. There were dynamic
Hill had long been the working class backbone of the city's port. Named for William Penn's Free Society of Traders, it contained the city's main produce market, and it bustled with the families of African American and Irish laborers.
Society Hill was a deteriorated neighborhood. Broken containers, barrels full of fish and things like that were all over the place. We had the Blue Anchor Inn, which was frequented for the most part by foreign sailors, including some ladies that worked the area. This was not exactly a pretty place.
Bacon's office devised a plan to transform the old neighborhood.
It would have been very easy to have come in and torn it all down. What Bacon imagined, though, was a combination of the new and the old.
We had a plan for Dock Street, which we had to demolish. Those buildings were too far deteriorated to build a high-rise apartment project to get the kind of density we thought we needed.
Bacon selected acclaimed modern architect I.M. Pei to design the centerpiece of the renewal, Society Hill Towers, which broke ground in 1963. Mayor Richardson Dilworth built a home for his family on nearby Washington Square, and Bacon designed a network of greenways, creating pedestrian pathways between streets.
The old Philadelphia Development Corporation marketed the idea of living in a restored colonial village to families that had an ancestry that dated back to the colonial period.
The first couple of buyers we had were Jared Ingersoll and his wife, who was a very famous Philadelphian, and Henry Watts, who was the chairman of the New York Stock Exchange.
I bought a house on 3rd Street. People who were young, like my husband and myself, we moved in because we could do a lot of the houses ourselves, and we built those houses. We rebuilt them. It was like a Vermont village. Everybody got together. Everybody knew everybody. And then, as it got more and more built up, it became more stratified.
South Street, Lombard Street, when I was real little, they were black neighborhoods. By the time I got to be a teenager, there was the first gentrification wave was Society Hill. The blacks who lived on Lombard Street were gone. Then we moved over to South Street, a kind of erasure. City policy programs did not consult with the very people that were being removed from their homes. Everyday people feeling like they didn't have control or say over their lives, over where they lived, where they could send their kids to school.
Many are the sins of urban renewal, but Society Hill became the model all around the country for how to revive city neighborhoods, not through demolition, but through preservation.
In the space of 2 decades, Society Hill became one of Philadelphia's wealthiest neighborhoods. At the same time, Bacon's planning office guided urban renewal efforts throughout the city, creating Penn Center, Independence Mall, and Eastwick, projects that would transform Philadelphia's identity.
Different flavor of urban renewal. So again, urban renewal, renew. Yeah. So there's a dedication of different land use, or maybe even the same thing. Get rid of the old structure for residential, put residential back. Yeah. Or you change the type. Urban renewal is also known as you have commercial or industrial, and you create something new on top of that. Baltimore, Inner Harbor, huge urban renewal. If you look worldwide, military bases. What are you going to do with military bases? The military is not there anymore. So in the case of Germany, former French and British and American quarters, even Russian quarters, are repurposed, redeveloped. Walls are torn down. Instead of the regular barracks and dorm room, you actually now have condos or small apartments inside. Urban renewal Also means that in the case of East Germany, where they had these socialist super planned project buildings, like tower after tower after tower, they decide if no one else is living in the tower anymore, why don't we just blow it up and put green space there? And that really happened in the outskirts of Berlin, the former East German parts around Berlin. Urban renewal was demolition and repurposed into open space. It's not always the highest, best use, like realistic would think. Yeah? So, was that a yes? All right. So, I started out with old versus new. Drop a bucket of paint on it. I want to show you now urban renewal that was the past, or ish, reflection of the past. Definitely a story of, yeah, this was great in Philadelphia, but not so great. Yeah, the loss of community in that place they call the neighborhood. Yeah? And I would like to show that industrial renewal with the next video.
I don't think those towers are there anymore.
I actually didn't check that.
Sydney is Australia's great global city, with its breathtaking natural beauty and unparalleled harbour waterfront. Yet only 2 kilometres from Sydney CBD, there's a unique opportunity for an exciting and visionary urban renewal. Urban Growth New South Wales will lead this transformational revitalisation, comprising Blackwattle Bay, home to the Sydney Fish Markets, Roselle Bay and Rail Yards, and the Watt Bay Power Station. The bays will be an iconic destination that beckons the world. The White Bay Power Station is one of the city's most remarkable heritage buildings due to its raw industrial spaces and its role as an important landmark. The White Bay Power Station is in need of significant revitalisation and will act as a catalyst for urban renewal.
Catalyst. A change agent.
The Bay's Urban Renewal team will lead the transformation of Blackwattle Bay into a vibrant marketplace catering for locals and tourists. We are now at the cusp of a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity for government, community, and the private sector to work together. The Bay's Urban Renewal will re-energise and revitalise Sydney for all Australians.
Okay. Let's get here.
Have a monorail now and everything.
Catalyst?
Yeah.
Catalyst is like acceleration?
Catalyst is a change agent. Catalyst is coming from chemistry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Acceleration.
So, 3 flavors of urban renewal and 3 completely different directions to go. Huh? The last one is this commercial. Now is the time. Now we can make change. Invest. Be part of this. Don't oppose our new way. Yeah? Again, this is just a few visual thoughts on what is actually urban renewal and are there any pros and cons. Yeah.
For example, like when you mentioned Germany, right? A lot of times that they demolish those buildings, it's some of the history of those buildings they don't want to remember. So they want to change some of the stuff. Yeah, some of the history that they have, they don't want it to be there. In England,
Alright, there's a majority of German buildings being demolished, particularly in 44, 45, not because we did not want to remember them, there have been other forces in play.
War, yeah.
Like one of the major fun discussions I had with a very old friend of mine, Robert Bob Warren, University of Delaware. He's the reason why I'm still standing in front of you guys. Yeah? War, the destruction of war, is probably one of the major change agents for urban renewal. I said that about 12 years ago. I did upset half of my classroom. I got a thumbs up by my professor. And one or two students started to hate me after that. I kind of polarized once in a while. That's the reason why I try to make this kind of trustworthy environment where we actually have a discussion on polarized ideas, that we be respectful for each other. In the classic historical context of wars, the last 2,000 years, the destruction was followed by some type of renewal or new growth.
Correct.
Yeah? And then we had issues or unfortunate events like we call places like Aleppo.
Correct.
I cannot, in a conscious moral mind, can repeat that statement I did 12, 13 years ago. Because the level of destruction for cities like that is unbelievable. The drone footage you might have seen compared to the drone footage you've seen maybe for airplane footage for Berlin or Munich, Hamburg. Berlin was completely flattened out.
Yeah.
Berlin downtown core area flattened out. Like one of the pictures you saw with like just one building standing, everything else was rubbles. But the forces of redevelopment and rebuilding have been different. We had 4 allies, an international committee to actually help Germans rebuild over 40, 50 years. So it's a sore topic.
Correct.
It's a very sore topic. I try to be very delicate with my with the language here, not to offend anyone, not to be too extreme. If we talk about places or spaces of felt value, culture, and identity, the last 20 years, when war was involved, that identity and culture was eradicated.
Correct.
The examples you mentioned with Germany, buildings destroyed, I actually have a few German examples, is different because you destroyed a specific neighborhood or the industrial complex or the harbor in Hamburg and other areas, but you did not completely kill everything in life and soul and structure. Yeah? So nowadays it's more a reflection of what happened before 20 years ago, like World War II, tragic what happened to human people, but in terms of the physical structure of the cities,
Correct.
there was some really interesting redevelopment done, and some silly ones. We learned how to, in urban planning, we learned, on architecture, we learned how to use concrete. Yeah? Remember we did this short episode on brutalist. Yeah? Well, what's more brutal than have historical buildings like a church, an old school architecture, and then you have a 6th-floor concrete building called a Kaufhof, which would be like a Walgreens, Winn-Dixie, like a Aldi's 1st floor, like a department store. Think about Sears or Kohl's in 6 floors, right next to a historic building. I have pictures of that. So one slide too early.
Okay.
All right. So pros and cons. Pro, the new development force changed consumer ideas for retail, for housing, etc. The cons, the Philadelphia example talk about displacement. They used the term gentrification. Yeah? Displacement and gentrification.
That's
what?
Eminent domain.
They also used eminent domain, which was a legal term, a legal process. But you basically, what you create is, with this displacement, simple thing, from the social component of planning. Where do all the homeless people go? Huh? From an economic standpoint, where do all people go with a $50,000 annual income or less? If you make $50,000 a year, can you afford a $500,000 home? Probably not. The housing crisis of 2008 showed us hopefully lessons learned. I had a neighbor who had a $300,000 home on a $60,000 income. How is that sustainable in terms of living?
British wife.
No, they had one of those wonderful adjustable rates.
Oh,
Huh?
Oh, or no income, no assets loans.
Yeah.
we call it floating.
Which now is again in the radio. If you listen to the radio stations,
Really?
they're actually doing like easy loan access with no background checks or no collaterals and all that. And it's like, okay, we are back then.
Who's doing them? Asking for a friend.
Not anymore. That was back.
I sold out on this. I was like, give me music back. Alright, so
What about culture? You can lose culture as well, right?
how do we lose culture?
Well, when you
With
are
displacement?
with
Displacement, generations change.
yeah,
Technology?
Aesthetics.
Like I grew up in the culture of Saturday morning family breakfast. Just walk down the block to get to the bakery to get fresh pretzels and fresh rolls. Like literally the stereotype of the French person with the baguette under the arm. No, doesn't exist. Where are you going?
Does that exist in Germany
If you
still?
yes and no, but the bakery is not there anymore. Yeah. So there's still one. I think and the old big bakery closed as well, but that I think was generation and market issue too. But the idea of oh, just getting fresh rolls from the next door doesn't exist. In my personal case, I live close to an Einstein's and a Starbucks. It's fast to walk if I cross the river. So it's like 3 minute car ride already, or I'll bake my own rolls, but you have to prepare for that. Simple little things. Coffee, generational change of coffee. Few of you are old enough to remember you get fresh roasted beans and you grind them at home. And then you put that in a paper filter and pour water on top of it. Now you have the little tiny plastic cartouche called a Keurig.
But also, pace of life, I mean, European culture, also tea time.
Yeah, you're like the British, yeah.
Pace
So
of
yeah,
life, you have
culture can be destroyed. Culture changes. The question is how sustainable change over time through generation, diversification, and gentrification. How the culture maintains. Culture might move too. But again, it's hard to say. Particularly, you need to define the time frame you look at that. Because in real estate development, you want to do this
because
fast
when you
journey.
posted the Fort Lauderdale video about Fort Lauderdale in 20 years.
That's
the video-
2030. Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, 15 years.
Yeah.
They are talking about a connected city and
So the
internet and everything else. So they are kind of creating an idea of what they want.
and they're using the transformation of space to enable that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because this is a chain.
And then the snow globe example we see on a daily basis are mall designs, are resort designs. Yeah? Because I create, even a cruise ship, I create that kind of theme setup, and in a larger scale I call it a city. Man, I'm pessimistic today. but think about that. So I have a bunch of pictures. Wherever I travel, I take a bunch of pictures. Yeah, and sometimes I tell a story about that. This is a place in the city of Bayreuth, Germany. That's about an hour north of Nuremberg, about 2.5 hours north of Munich, if you keep the speed limits on the Autobahn. And the reason why this is absolutely fantastic picture is this little creek. Later on is Frankfurt am Main. You heard of Frankfurt City? And Frankfurt at the Main. That is one of the sources for that big river on Frankfurt. Used to be flat concrete surface. They literally put a lid on that. The story goes that an older lady was walking her dog and there was a hole, and can't remember if she stepped in it with her leg or the dog kind of slipped away. So they had to rehab this whole thing. And what they did is, this was a regular street, black asphalt blacktop. This is the roof here is the old opera house, like with plated gold, all this Baroque style part. These are hundreds of years old buildings with actually yellowish sandstone. And what they did is they ripped this open, put bridges on top of that, stairs. You can see a couple sitting down there. You have river running through. This is a preferred picnic and date place because this is actually walking distance to downtown, which I can show you just a few pictures later. And it's completely legit to have a picnic basket with a bottle of wine in the evening and just hang out there. Because moderated public drinking is allowed. And all this you can see here, umbrellas is actually coffee shops. This is a bank building, a bank branch, and they actually designed it very nicely. All that is reduced traffic zone. This is the bus.
Is that the only day where there's sunlight in Germany? It's the only day there's the sun out. Oh, take a picture.
This is, we should talk a little bit today about complete streets. This is a neighborhood alley just around the block from that picture I showed you guys before. On-street parking, different back depths, planters, trees. Remember we talked about urban heat? This is highly, extremely shaded, and there are actually passages for pedestrians in between. And shame on you, you should actually wear a helmet. Otherwise you get run over. And this is actually postal service delivery service, DHL. Again, this is Main Street. See this? Doesn't really fit in. That's one of those concrete rehab buildings versus this classic sandstone. Street pattern, exactly. As Cash pointed out, look at the street pattern. This used to be blacktop. They rehabbed that. Here used to be a bus station terminal, like where you park 4 or 5 buses in a row. This used to be a place where you sit outside in the coffee and you have a bus pass you like 3 feet away. Exactly. When I went there for college, I put that picture in because everyone was like, oh, no beer. This is actually non-alcoholic wheat beer.
What is that? Wait.
White sausages.
Why,
It's called white sausages. Seriously, it's not the bratwurst, it's a white sausage.
Why is it white?
It looks
It
like
has veal in it. It's like,
miso
think about
soup.
bratwurst
It
with
looks like
fluffy,
miso soup.
fluffy as marshmallows. It's good. And the sweet mustard, fresh pretzels.
That's good.
Non-alcoholic beer. I drove 4 hours later in a rental car. I don't drink and drive in a
Why you
rental
want to drink non-alcoholic?
In a rental.
And I'm very low on the alcohol when I drive. Anyway, 1 beer for dinner, yeah. But you don't. If you ever, we do have a drink next week after class. I have alumni that would come in and say, Dr. Woods, I want to take a shot. I'm driving. I'm not taking that. No?
Uber. Let's get drunk next week.
Okay, keep it as casual. But again, this whole span of that street used to be traffic zone for buses. This is a pedestrian zone. Morning delivery only. After 10 or 11 o'clock, you're only allowed with bikes and pedestrians. They put water games and water play in there. This is actually one of the spindle pumps. You can crank the pump and actually transport water up, a water wheel, all that, so the kids can play. And again, back in the days, outside at the skirt, bus would pass by. Now, you get run over by bikes. So, we can skip that. This is a reminder. Transportation in a perfect world. We have a huge infrastructure problem. Because, because we think once we put it into the ground, we can forget about it. Once you put it on the street, like blacktop, you don't have to worry about it anymore. We have sinkholes in Florida. Because of groundwater issues. No, the ideal perfect world would be all that. You don't have to pay for it anymore, we don't have to update anymore, and that street, which is 30 years old, is still the same. Hallelujah. This is not the way the world works. The next roadblock, the pothole you bump into on your commute, you're like, yeah, no aging infrastructure. That's not the way it works. Yeah? Replacement cost. How much do you actually have to pay if you redo, let's say, University Drive? They're redoing Pine Island, just a few blocks over. Yeah, back and forth. They're shifting for weeks. They're shifting, putting a temporary lane in and shifting traffic and all that. It's actually well done, that section. Yeah? When you talk about public transit, and don't get me wrong, big fan of it, but would you subsidize free traffic? Like a trolley system, hop on it all the time, don't have to pay for it. So that's, you max out the capacity of the trolley system because someone in the community or stakeholders will pay for it. Ski resorts are doing that. It's part of their marketing program. And they're saying, we don't want you to drive from your hotel down to the ski lift. We have, during the day, a trolley bus system to shuttle you. Yeah?
Tourist dollars that are...
Because the tourist fee you pay in the hotel will pay for that with the community turnarounds. No? There are cities in Europe, Saarbrücken, and can't remember, in Switzerland. No cars allowed in that historic core. You drive up to with your bus or with your personal car. Personal car is expensive. You drive up with your bus. You live in the valley in a cheap hotel. The bus is driving you up. The bus dumps you out in the parking garage, and you walk or take the electric scooter. Yeah? And they actually have a subway through the glacier up. Yeah? Like literally subway style through the ground and through the ice. Why? Because they decided you don't want to have any CO2 and emissions from any personalized cars. So to do all that, to make good transformation, you need to deal with this component, or the cost of driving. What's your average commuting time to class? Hour. Half an hour, who's below an hour? Everyone below an hour, who's more than the hour? West Palm, depending on traffic, even maybe more 90 minutes. Yeah? What are you doing in that, let's say, 45-minute commute? Approach everyone. What are you doing during your commute? You're driving. What else do you do? No texts, that's for sure. But what else? Listen to music. What else?
I watch TV.
Makeup.
With my phone like this, and I watch.
Yeah, okay, you're right.
I did not hear that because you're technically not allowed to do that. Yeah? So, if you stand for an hour in traffic, stop and go. Is that productive time? You're idling on gas, you run off actually on operational costs for your car. Yeah? Because idling is not great for your car either. What else? What else could you do? Instead of the hour one-way commute, that's 2 hours drive time. You could live closer and go half an hour to the gym or bike, if weather allows it. Or Florida biking is rough. You do it for sport, not for commute. Yeah? But you would be able to do that. So I used to have a colleague who moved from Boca Raton, plantation / Boca Raton to Idaho. Reduced his daily commute from 45 minutes one way, if the traffic was fine, to a 7-minute bike ride. Idaho. Yeah. Intermountain West. Cool place.
From Boca to Idaho.
Exactly. Young kid, family, 2-year-old moved out, better job offer, and frustration in the job, in the old job. Dropped about 30 pounds in the first year from moving from a car-based commute and all the stress to not much change in diet, well, Idaho wine, yeah, and biking every day, 6-7 minutes one way. Yeah. Drop off the kid in a trailer, drop off the kid at kindergarten, go to the office. And at 4 p.m., sorry, must go, pick up the kid with the trailer pulled in behind the bicycle.
That's so cool.
Bicycle, not motorbike. And bang, huge impact on your personal health. I'm doing the same thing, the opposite way right now.
Don't you fall behind it? It has this negative aspect too. You could gain, gain stress-free kind of lifestyle. On the other hand, you're not actually up to date with a lot of the stuff that happens in the city that you would see normally, like if you live in a vibrant city that you.
Really?
You don't think so?
All right, just let's go next. Let's go for that. Let's go for that.
Less resources.
Yeah, I mean,
That is just such a stereotype.
Well, that's your
Just because you live in a state that is not on your mental map doesn't mean that the people living there, or particularly in the capital city, are behind. Just give you an example.
Just less resources, though.
No, well, that's not true. Just give you an example. I'm a big fan of that little city. In Boise, Idaho, just recently, a rock band called Blondie and Garbage played. Open air, in front of the foothills, pure open air concerts, 75, 80 degrees, dry. Yeah, sunset, all that stuff. Ticket was about $35 to $40. That door was the stage. Yeah. I got tickets for the same band, same tour, just a few weeks later at the Hard Rock Hotel. 80, 85, and that door is the band, and I was at the end of the atrium. Two-thirds of the building away.
You can go to the beach out there.
So you can be in the mountains, or you can go water kayaking after that too. So I'm not that, it's a stereotype that particularly certain cities in the West are underdeveloped or have no skill. So I got Broadway shows in that town called underdeveloped, and I don't have to pay $300 for the ticket. So
in case people wouldn't pay this much money to live in city centers or in
I saw-
areas that won't live in the suburbs in Idaho.
But again, this is a different trend. If you look at where people want to live now, different age groups, they are migrating all over the place. Just look at where college graduates now start working and living. They are moving not anymore because of a job. They're moving because of lifestyle choices, hoping to find a job there.
Right.
I followed my job opportunities even to actually across the pond on a different continent. Yeah, I had a bunch of friends because they heard that Boise, Idaho is a great place to do software development and entrepreneurship. They basically canceled everything in Arkansas, drove up to Idaho. 2 weeks later, they had an engineering job paying better than actually in Arkansas. It's the opportunity of that, what we call, or used to call the footloose communities, or footloose industries. A graphic designer doesn't have to be in a fixed location. I have a friend, she's a software developer for the University of Idaho. Her husband and her have a catamaran. So for a bunch of months and weeks during the year, they are off the chart, but out in the world. They did the Pacific Passage. Because they're software engineers, they want to adapt this internet in a coffee shop in Seattle or in Miami. Again, it depends on what your lifestyle, what you're doing with this. Huh?
I feel like for the argument for the ticket, the example, wouldn't the reason for why it would be much cheaper there is because, for instance, there's people traveling like 2 hours to get to the concert, where if it was in Miami, the rate they can charge whatever they want because they know they can fill up the concert within a 2-mile radius of people that live there.
Yeah, but on the other side, why did U2 only give one concert here and charge $200 for the
Change
shows?
the state from Idaho to like Tennessee, if you
You really have stereotypes of Idaho. We need to sit down and I'll show you a few pictures. So, I want to finish this a little bit, run through this and give you a little bit more ideas with visuals. How does traffic impact our site? So this is site planning. And part of your assignment was to figure out where would you enter the site and how do you guide that flow system. The circulation of your traffic was part of the deal. In any form and shape you place certain land users on it, you had open space. And some decided to mark up open space and or traffic. Yeah? So the idea is here the capacity and intersection point. When traffic flows is heavy, the critical limit capacity is the intersection. That's the bottleneck. Yeah? Some folks will argue that the turn right green arrow helps if traffic in the main road is okay. Yeah? Some people argue instead of a four-way red light, put a four-way stop sign in it, hoping that the driver's education will help. Yeah? Like respect the drivers coming in and in worst case brake rather than hit. Yeah? Or the roundabout. Speaking of culture and places, the culture of the roundabout is stereotyping France and England, because that's all over the place roundabouts. It comes to certain areas, but it takes time to get people acquainted to it. Roundabout with 2 or 3 lanes. Oh, I need a manual for that. I didn't learn that in traffic ed on this continent. Huh? So, gotta figure this out. But again, in the purpose of site planning, we need to figure out how does this actually work together. Yeah? Did you consider traffic and urban plan yet? Where on your urban plan project is the traffic the most?
Basically number 1, because as Lynch says, traffic, if you go by...
In your Lego block gaming, in your urban plan, where is the most traffic?
That street.
9 and 10.
9, 10,
9, 10 and Jefferson.
In the south.
9th and University.
Yeah, connecting to the university and to the CBD. Not in the church area. Something to consider, if you haven't done so. Huh? Alright.
How does a community improve walkability? This is Urban Planning 101.
I like this video series.
Walkability affects community health, economics, and the overall livability of a town. It is not just about being physically able to walk somewhere, but about all the things that influence your choice to take care of daily activities on foot. 400 meters, or a quarter mile, is the distance the average person can walk in 5 minutes. When a trip becomes longer, people choose other, more convenient ways of getting around. But we cannot just judge walkability with a straight line measurement. Separated land uses, dead-end streets, large blocks, and poorly designed and arranged developments can mean that many places are undesirable or unsafe to walk through, or more than 5 minutes away. By changing some of the ways we build our neighborhoods and towns, we can make them more walkable. The following are 3 ways of doing just that. 1, arrange the uses in your community so that people can get to many of them on foot. Put neighborhood convenience stores, daycares, and parks in the heart of residential areas, and make sure these are connected to main downtown commercial districts. And don't make blocks too large, or at least include safe, well-designed shortcuts through them. 2, focus on placemaking. That means making destinations people-oriented and interesting by mixing a variety of uses and designing spaces for different kinds and ages of people. And remember, all trips start and end as walking trips, so even include safe walkways through parking lots. And 3, make your neighborhoods and districts pleasant for people to walk through, with streets, buildings, and landscaping that are all designed to focus on people's experiences. This doesn't have to be complicated. Placing buildings close to the street, avoiding blank walls, and including street trees along sidewalks are some of the most universally effective ways to make a community more pedestrian friendly. With these simple long-term policy goals and land use decisions, and basic design and development solutions, you and your elected officials, municipal planners, and builders can work together to improve your community's walkability. I'm Robert Voigt, and this has been Urban Planning 101.
They did like 4 or 5, and they're absolutely fantastic. Yeah. All right, another city in Germany. That was about a year, 1.5 years ago. I had a friend, a Greek guy I met doing studies in Cincinnati, Ohio, now living and working in Germany. We actually did like a tour in the neighborhood. Yeah? So this is like half an hour away from my parents. Heidelberg, beautiful town. If you go stereotyping tourist trips, Heidelberg is what you want to see. All wonderful red sandstone. If you follow that ridge of that mountain, beautiful old castle sitting on top. Like a fantastic view on the top, and just amazing. I like Heidelberg because it has these little tiny nice alleys in walking. This is a side alley. Look at all these bicycles. This is more, on one bike rack, more bicycles you will find here compared to campus. Huh? Yes, please.
That's where the largest beer barrel is?
In that castle on top of the mountain, it's the world's largest beer cask. It is as twice the height of this room. Minimum.
The largest.
The showroom is the size of this room, and the barrel is probably twice the size. I'm 6'1", I'm standing in front of it, and I'm not reaching the third of its height. It's huge. It's not as spectacular as the story, but you just walk around and take a picture. That's it. Huh? Heidelberg downtown is way more interesting.
Google Maps.
Yeah, Google Maps, Heidelberg. That's the spelling. Old church, parking is in the back. This is just a pedestrian zone, but you see even the subway that's a C location. This is not main traffic. But the rent they have to pay for that store is probably too high on the other corner around. And signage helps to find this. You literally walk, almost like, oh, there's a subway, let's get food. Yeah? But the interesting part is walkability. Here you have offset in terms of patterns again. Yeah? Bunch of folks walking. You can see that there is a street at the end, curving with the car, bicycles, and this is one of the cool things. It's an open library. Like, take a book, leave a book. A lady is checking out a bunch of books, and she was really, really angry with me that I took a picture. The whole privacy issue thing, Google Street Views, Facebook, taking pictures of people in public in Germany is critical. Yeah? I have one picture I show you that I actually asked for permission to take it, because there's a minor. And I use that actually for posters and advertisement.
So people they bring books and they
Yeah.
books.
So now this is a fun story. I invite students to give me pictures. Yeah? I tell you a story about my travels, show me a picture of your travels. This is a picture taken by Kenneth. Remember Ken? Some of you might remember Ken. Yeah? This is in Boca. This is in front of a law firm. Yeah? And he saw this, opened it up, took a picture, and said, I remember your lecture about the library bookshelf in the middle of nowhere. Yeah? This is in Boca, Florida. Littlefreelibrary.org, return a book, non-profit organization, and it literally says, like, take a book, return a book. That's the first time he ever saw that, or actually identified it. This is not a newspaper stand. This is actually a little library. Huh? It's cool. It's really cool. Urban versus rural. What's the issue with rural spaces? Today, people are less and less going to libraries. What are the ideas of libraries in rural spaces? Countryside. They take an old school bus, rehab the old school bus, and turn it into a library bus. And once or twice a week, particularly on the weekends, the library bus is running across the countryside. So you know, on Sunday after church at 11 o'clock, the library bus will be there, and for half an hour or an hour, you can actually do your library storybooks. Very interesting concept. Yeah? As this old saying, if the prophet doesn't come to the mountain has to go to the prophet. Yeah? Works with library books. Yeah? Right, Heidelberg again. The Starbucks is this corner here, to the right. Lynch talks a little bit about housing as in housing structures and the form, the physical form of housing. And he explains the concept of the courtyard. For Americans, that is a squared donut. I'm not making a negative joke here. That's the easiest way to remember it. It's not anymore just a block, and we built the whole floor. Classic courtyard actually has an interior courtyard open space where people would interact. You would actually maybe put your trash in here. In Italy, it's famous for what? Southeast Asia works as well.
Pizza.
No. Laundry lines across the courtyard where you actually hang your laundry. Because some cultures do not have a laundry machine, a dryer. You know? And the courtyard usually has at least one entrance, like a tunnel. Or a second one, depending on that. Berlin is built on this. Like typical square buildings, and you have a beautiful courtyard with old trees even inside. Yeah? Well, this is Main Street, walking distance, or walking Main Street in downtown Heidelberg. Huge church plaza there, and you see all these openings. Those are openings into courtyards. We'll come back in the picture. Change of space. That's a smart car. Smart car has the advantage it's as wide as a regular sedan. So some cities in Germany actually changed their parking policy, because now you can park, if this is a regular parking spot, yeah, you park 2 smart cars on 1 parking meter. So who are you going to write the ticket now? The parking meter has expired. The guy to the left or to the right, or both of them? No kidding. This was the problem. So they actually decided then to say, you know what? We put another meter here and do a smart car parking. Huh? Invest your double investment. Again, bike, Vespa roller, smart car. This is a side street. This is not main traffic. Yeah? This is the plaza I was talking about. The picture earlier, this is coming from this route. Yeah? Actually, this way. Here you can see the castle sitting on top of the hill. Remember we did the positioning of power functions? We did have that. Top of the hill, the elite, looking down, and this is the church. Again, different housing structure. This is again an entrance to the courtyard, which was really bad marketed, because this is the only sign saying that there's something in there. That's actually seating, a small food vendor, and all these are actually apartments on top. That's Ola's pricing. 900 square foot, $1,300 to $1,400. Cold. And that's old substance. That's a few hundred years old house. Yeah? Plus you have to heat for it. In the summer maybe AC. Yeah? And nothing special. It's just downtown walking distance. All right. Is that a video?
What are complete streets? This is Community Planning 101.
Told you I like to see this.
Streets are streets designed to be safe, comfortable, and efficient for pedestrians, cyclists, transit riders, and motorists. And they're designed to be connected to the places people live, work, learn, and play. Design features of complete streets may include sidewalks, multi-use trails, bike or bus lanes, accessible transit stops, median islands, and many others. And each of these helps one or more transportation method function better without making the others less efficient or uncomfortable. It's not about balancing the use of cars against all other transportation, or just adding lanes for bikes, buses, and pedestrians. It's about travel being more accessible, providing travel options for communities, making them better and healthier places to live. Also, the improved social interaction of complete streets is good for businesses and property values. Even where destinations are close to home, incomplete streets often make them inaccessible by foot, bike, or transit. For example, schools without sidewalks to residential areas make walking less safe for students, and cul-de-sacs create dead ends, cutting places off from people's homes. Routes along high-speed roads without bike lanes, sidewalks, or comfortable transit stops feel unsafe and are used less. Multi-lane roads without adequate crossings act as barriers, limiting access to retail areas and services. By designing complete streets, these negative impacts can be avoided or reversed. Complete streets are also not just city or suburban approaches. They can work in rural areas too, but the design solutions will look different. For example, roads in rural areas may be made complete by providing wide shoulders for cycling and walking, with connections to trails and transit stops. In a village center, a complete street strategy could include marked crossings, sidewalks, curb extensions, and street trees, all designed specifically to fit the character of the small town. So now you know the basics of what complete streets are, their benefits, and the kinds of ways they can be designed. I'm Robert Voigt, and this has been Community Planning 101.
So let's take a look at street design a little bit. City of Mannheim. And I think we had that in one of the very first sessions when we talked about historical artifacts, how street patterns and the form of urban cores have been translated to. Department store. Department store, most of them here and there are some residential units on top. What's this? Streetcar. Yeah? Large pedestrian area, most of it is actually the whole pedestrian area zone, but you get a really loud bing, 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 bing with a streetcar behind you. Yeah? You gotta deal with that. Same thing the other way around, north, south, east, west, sorry, east, west. Now this is one of the central plazas there, the water tower, but you can see, okay, there's actually a different mix of buildings, old school, rehab, this is actually a movie theater, and again, different concept. They, for Germans, to follow your logic, they look pretty happy. It was actually a warm July day. Yeah? So for a warm July day, they're actually still looking cool. All right. Speyer. Different place. Don't say anything bad. We grew up there. All right. This is a city that is dated by the Romans around 50 before Christ or after. They had a 2,000-year festival. Yeah? They're actually noted by the Romans. So this is a little bit old school, somewhat. You can see again here in terms of architecture, you have the almost like what we would call townhomes, yeah? Lined up. Look at the roof lines. The main roof line is actually parallel to the street, and then just like two extensions are facing. This is actually renewal. This is not the classic build. It's too large for classic build. It's like a studio part. This is the classic build. Yeah? They are pretty much the same roof line if you look at the gutters. Yeah, all over the place. And this guy behind there is the large Roman cathedral. Foundation is 1150 after Christ. Burned down a few times. If you want to look that up, great history. But it's a different concept. If you look at that street used to be a high traffic zone where you could be run over by buses and by regular cars. Still, there's someone riding the car, a lot of bicycles and driving. This is a Saturday afternoon around 4 or 5 p.m. Friday, 4 or 5 p.m. Yeah? A little bit closer, you can see now here the cathedral as a center point. This is like focal area from a city wall tower straight into the church. This is, I think, the third largest church in Europe. St. Pete, then Cologne, and then I think Speyer. Yeah. So it's a big guy. Yeah? This is a picture I took. This is a drive-through, open window. The guy on the bike with the kiddo actually asked them, and he turned the kid's face. Asked him, hey, I'm a professor of planning real estate, can I use this? Because it was just amazing. He drove across the sidewalk, grabbed those ice cream, and then disappeared. It was not very friendly. It's a cool bike, Phil. Alright, so complete streets. This is one of the stereotype patterns of complete streets. You change the setup of your lanes. Yeah? You create some of the green boxes where pedestrians are actually cyclists could get priority space before that car. Yeah? And you can see instead of following the street, they are separated, the bicyclists are separated from the trees, islands, and the parking. Because one of the biggest enemies, if you're on a bicycle, is the running car and the parked car. Why is the parked car a danger zone? They open the doors and hallelujah. I know why I promise with my shoulder. Huh? If you are more athletic in biking and you run your 20 miles per hour, there is no way that you can stop on your bicycle if someone just pops the door open. Next time you're on a parking lot, like here in front of school, just take a look at if people would actually look in the mirror or over the shoulder before they open the door. No, you can clip the door because you roll into the parking spot and they open it. So again, Looks pretty cool. Stuff like this, design like this. City of Arlington, in the Washington D.C. area, that on Georgetown University. That's somewhat how they designed that, and they would place down here would be a subway station.
Amsterdam, has a lot of.
The new quarters, yeah.
A lot of-
Yeah. All right. So again, urban renewal should be built on culture and be resilient and maintain this on an organic way, or should be rebuilt and go through all these problems of change. Yeah? I mean this in this case, problems of change. And that is that lecture. Let's do a quick break so you guys can stretch your legs. Like, really, like 3 minutes. Run to the bathroom, run back.
Oh.
Belgium, yes. Amsterdam.
Hey, nice shirt. I like it. Oh, thank you, lad.
This is a good picture of that. This is a good picture of that.
Hey, no.
Yeah, we're so dressed so casual for shots every day, so it's fun that wearing sneakers and leggings.
What do we?
I think next year.
Yeah. Let's get new progressive lenses. First time in the day.
So this is,
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. Pretty different.
Is it giving you a headache?
Well, yeah. No, it's just when you have regular, I don't know the terminology, you just have a regular lens. Your head up, you know, people that want to drive. Because that is the most up, it's middle, and then 3 is down. So you have
and jump on
you know,
bing, 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 no internet connection.
What's going on, man? How you doing?
I will send out an email of that. I think it's good results.
Say anything.
Invest in the power to start.
Yeah.
Start not get all the stuff done and then compose
2 o'clock in the morning.
PowerPoint presentation you can practice.
Yeah, for sure.
Versus like I do classes
I send you the too.
where I have like show the function, load the data. Some of this today for EO reports, create, let's say, create add variables.
Yeah, well, most of us.
I will down add 5 variables.
Yeah.
Picking 5 till 19-year-olds as a demographic. Was because
Yeah.
I was working in college when we were doing this project. Yeah? Like that it keeps it alive. So it's just me, it was a concept that up in PowerPoint.
But you work with like
retail
those of each or
food I tested yesterday, but the age stuff came out. You don't want that. You want to have a scripted, solid presentation that you'll be 8 to 10 minutes. 1 or 2 questions.
I just wanted to buy.
Present your mindset and your flow.
When did you move here? When did you move here?
If you have the addresses and lists, you can actually do what you want to do.
I think it was for 8 years. In Miami. And he's 1.5 years.
That's time consuming.
Where were you before?
Put that on the to-do list at the end. Because it goes to be there.
I'm being in place of places for the last 4 years.
And you spend 2 hours or 3 hours on it. And
Plan
the
state.
result.
Yeah.
Did you like Orlando? Did you like Orlando?
What's the rotation?
Yeah.
That animation.
I lived in.
I lived in Lakeland, so,
That
yeah.
Well, I actually You know, I
And what?
I lived in St.
You need to consider that.
I lived like 2 years ago, 2 years ago.
Or
Really?
use
Yeah, wait.
PowerPoint and
Where's
make
that?
sure that
Yeah.
everything is super chunk file.
That's
And
here's
you
my
move the
sister.
artmap animation.
Across
There was
between.
nothing to do.
Hey, by the way, this is what I've
Yeah,
done.
you should
I
get
have a
so
static
stop
image
between
there.
Tampa or Atlanta, be
And
like,
then show the image.
so you know, go on job, and then find the organization.
Cool thing is if you have a video file to embed it in PowerPoint, so nobody needs to walk. Alright, good. I start, this is again a little bit showing the idea of social challenges and how space got transformed over time. And this is a part of the story from Cincinnati. Part of Cincinnati, where transformation, can I continue? Thank you. Where transformation over time has changed a crime-infested, run-down neighborhood, sadly turned into something more vibrant. Personal story in Cincinnati was we moved there in 2006, 5, 6, and there has been one neighborhood that I was informed from a senior person working in my team. It's a white guy. You don't want to walk there at 4 p.m. in the afternoon because they shoot people there during daylight. Yeah? The neighborhood was called Over the Rhine. So I want to show you a different the change of the story of Over the Rhine, like we had an example in Philadelphia. So that's a view from Kentucky across the Ohio River to Cincinnati. Yeah? All this has changed again. Here you can see construction going on. I will have a few slides where all this is an absolutely fantastic walkable park where people really now hang out. Yeah? There used to be rail yard and vegetable facilities. Yeah? Cincinnati is one of the main key bottleneck points for the east-west rail yards. Yeah? Everything that goes up north into Chicago used to go through Cincinnati. Yeah? The Great American Insurance Tower, that used to be one of the largest towers in Cincinnati, the Crew Tower, if it was cool. So that whole thing transformed. Same architectural firm that designed this bridge built the Brooklyn Bridge. That's the reason why this looks so familiar. Yeah? All right, walking tour. This is where the picture was taken I just showed a second ago. Yeah? And we're going basically up north into Over the Rhine, and we have like a walking tour because the Cincinnati is huge on arts nowadays. They're using arts as part of culture and identity. So all these here are now murals, Carew Tower, are murals along that kind of route. Yeah? It's very well supported actually in the internet. Old friend of mine lives as an urban planner currently in Korea or Taiwan, or has he moved recently? Really cool kid. Try to find that blog really enjoyable, theoretical, applied work. Helps even as a real estate developer. Yeah. All right. Very quick idea. This planning commissions in that area define certain areas of change. You can see for GS class, those are just buffers around the regular buildings and areas. Yeah, it's not very complicated GS work, but you have like a core identified, and you say, okay, there are certain areas and certain distances that will transform. And we're taking a look at this downtown area. Yeah, up here, that's the core, is the university. All right, can't skip that. Walking as designed. This is the tool. Yeah. All those modes. They actually made a map where you find what. And on ice cold Monday morning in Thanksgiving 2016. This is a brand new development, the so-called Banks, just behind the baseball stadium. Therefore, they actually put this huge mural of the kid with the baseball bat here. The original drawing actually has cigar. Yeah? So instead of a gray wall, arts turning spaces in something living. Huh? You have that. That's the other side. That's the construction. There's construction going on here as well. The mural, the building for the mural, is not yet there. This is from the building with the mural. This is the park I was talking about. One of the sites. Think about this bank building on the riverside. That's where the other picture was taken. Same thing. This is the construction site in the other picture. Now it's a park. That's a flying pig, because that's how they call the marathon there. And because it used to be a big slaughterhouse facility. Yeah? Again, completely different. Again, November looks different, brand new park, therefore you have smaller trees. Imagine 10, 15 years, how big those trees are going to be and how much shade you will get. Yeah? Then, being resilient and keeping culture. Keeping culture. This used to be a rail yard, among other things, for vegetable stuff. So this is actually a park bench now. See that? Park bench with the engravings of what was that used to be. And to symbolize the rail yard, all these park benches are actually on rail. See that? Now you can actually move. You have to unlock them. And some display again here that this was a vegetable park. To give you an idea, this is the Brown Stadium, Bengal Stadium. So really cool redesign. And you go through this is Main Street, a little bit north of downtown. Yeah. Old picture, taken in March, but you can get a feel. Old housing structure, how this is run down. Yeah. You still have it in the middle of downtown corners like that. So it's not as shiny and beautiful as Las Olas. No? Cincinnati, over the line. Yeah? Junkyard, that's a kind of a sidewalk mechanic shop. Yeah? Overhead wiring, old deteriorated homes, boarded up. Yeah? Old versus new. Old, boarded up, no windows, nothing. Granted, this is in winter, yeah, but nicely done. Rehab the front, even if it's ice cold for Floridians, that is snow, yeah. It's different appeal. Would you walk on the sidewalk to the left? Probably not. Believe it or not, there will be people who would be on the other side walking. Same thing here, standalone rundown building, somewhat in certain areas still the same appeal. How do you make this looking a little bit more appealing, a little bit more nicer? Well, this is one of the success stories, and this is one of the key elements why this neighborhood is now one of the most vibrant neighborhoods announced by the American Planning Association. Over 10 years, run down, high concentration of crime, on the FBI super list of crime reports. Yeah. This is Music Hall. Beautiful acoustics inside. This is the parking lot that is called now Washington Park. Again, when I started living there, this was a view. Gravel and a parking lot. Nothing else. Yeah. A few years later, they decided they rehabbed the parking lot, put the parking structure underneath it, and put grass on top. Now it's open space activity area with open air bands. They do video, movie showings. They actually play open air concerts out there, and they put a huge water fountain splashing area for the kids. This is the same building. This is Music Hall with a parking lot just a few years in front of it. Huge impact on the community. Across Music Hall, condominium unit is now just about $1 million. Used to be like $50,000 a home. What? I'm making up these numbers, extreme numbers. But you could build a slumlord building, boarded up, below 100,000, and now it's quadrupled the price just because you rehabbed it a little bit, and this neighborhood is really wonderful. I can look up more prices, but housing prices in that area have been exploding. There's no other way to explain that. food came into the neighborhood. This is over the Rhine. It's an old German style neighborhood. What's also stereotyping about Germans, besides sad faces and sauerkraut? Beer. Cincinnati is one of the most flourishing towns in the US, I would think now, currently, with smaller microbrews. Smaller microbrews? Sam Adams is brewing all production for the Midwest and the South there. Like on a whole street block. It's Sam Adams. Yeah? There are breweries with thousands and hundreds of thousands of barrel output a year, if not a million, in their neighborhood. So it's insane. Speaking of, that hasn't changed yet. That is an old urban farm street block. What can you do with a street block if you bulldoze down, demo down the house? Well, you could start community urban farming on it. Yeah? One thing to do that. Or you propose a mixed-use office building development on top of that. Here, this is a lot. Same building. That lot, supposed to be, look like this. Hasn't changed yet. Like 4 weeks ago, during Irma, that lot is still there. Yeah? $27 million development at that corner, with the idea that these are meeting rooms and conference rooms and like a penthouse style office.
Have you seen any cities that are planning for like the greenhouse growing that some people do on the roofs?
I would have to look that up. I don't know.
Is there a website that you guys, as land urban planners, know what areas are going to be invested in by the cities or anything like that? Like,
okay, one of the success stories in Cincinnati is also like the 3DEC. It's like the capital development company that deals with like P3 concept, public-private partnership between the city and other investors. Yeah, some of the elements here are actually being bought up by the city and rehabbed by the city and then sold or maintained. Yeah, other larger cities have that as well, even smaller ones. That gives you somewhat a chance to control how growth in your downtown area or the adjacent area to downtown is developed. There are pros and cons on that. If you deal with history of places, history of places is, these are one of the oldest buildings in Cincinnati, if I remember right. There is a historic overlay zoning on this for preservation. Remember I showed you pictures of context? Like one we had satellite dishes and the other one was examples from Washington DC, little tiny brick house and a big office building around it. That's kind of same thing. Yeah? And those guys are pretty eager actually to do that. That's a whole block. Yeah? If you could change the legal code on get rid of the historic building, they would do that. They actually did that recently on one old hotel. Do I have the picture of it? No. Oh wait, do I have the picture of it? Nah, it's just a block next to it. Think about this. If this is the white building only on this plot, but there will be two lots next to it, old as parking. So the story goes, and this is a story. I walked by, a friend of mine was historic development planning, all that stuff. He's really into history, and told me the story. So if I get the facts a little bit wrong, please don't be angry with me. There was an old hotel, apartment buildings at the end, and didn't really run well. And the story goes that the company and the owners of that specific building, what they did is they bought up the parking lots next to it. Accumulation of space, so property you can build something bigger. And they didn't maintain the building. So people argue that they are not maintaining the building on purpose. Because at some point, your not maintained structure turns into what? A deteriorated structure that potentially has a hazard for public welfare and safety. If you have a crack on the 3rd floor in the wall and you don't fix it, you could say at some point of time people will get hurt. So there are other things rumored about how they dealt behind closed doors about that, but I think they have been able, they demolished it. They have been actually able to get a demolition permit for a historic preserved building that was run down, and because of public welfare and safety issues, they have been able to say we need to get rid of it. And now the rumor is that the whole block-ish will be developed.
I hope they do that for Lake Worth.
Yeah, and city council and planning and zoning came under big fire on that because that's a precedence case. So few street blocks up north, old hotel gets deteriorated, but not maintained and run down, and buildings that are similar in the age period are now, this is well maintained, yeah? But now the problem is, what are you going to do? Oh, we did this 3 street blocks up north, we demoed all that. Why do I have to maintain this one? Can't I just build, rebuild, renew? Huh? Alright, so one thing we did is all these graffiti murals. Yeah, this is actually a parking garage. Huh? And little did you know is Neil Armstrong is from Ohio, so this is like the Neil Armstrong version. And little did you know is, who's that?
E.T.
Who did E.T.?
Steven Spielberg.
Yeah, Steven Spielberg born. That's the reason why they gave that. Yeah. So stuff like this, all over the story. A little bit impression here, furniture, little furniture store, bar around the corner. This is law office. This is a building. Yeah. See that? That's one standalone building. This area here, this is the dining room area, or even a bed, maybe master bedroom. You fit like 3 of these in here. A different style of housing. But again, could use some loving. Could use some loving. You look here, that hasn't been seen sandpaper and a little bit paint for a while. And this is right downtown. It's literally right downtown. Fifth Third Bank and the Federal Reserve Bank. It's just around the corner. Again, mural changes the appearance. For a parking lot, that's kind of interesting. Compared to just that wall.
Parking space.
Valet parking.
Oh,
So again, this is cool. This is in a side pocket. This is a parking lot. A whole Star Wars story put up, and I didn't have to panorama on this. This is look at the parking space. How big that is and how tall. This is part of their, let's make the space a little bit more livable. Not just a bucket of paint. Like, it's mind-blowing. Like, look, that's a regular car. Think about that.
All those movies were born there?
They might actually have, they got special rights to do that. You can be assured that there is a link to Cincinnati by the creator, designer, actor, or someone. That's their thing. I think it's called the Cincinnati Arts Walk. That's well published on the web pages there. Yeah. So Urban Ohio again, a bunch of pictures, old school, not yet rehabbed, versus this is where I say, man, whoever actually approved that design review? There is no official design review committee in Cincinnati. I learned that again just a few weeks ago. So this is high-end living in the lower end of one of the most crime-infested neighborhoods 10 years ago.
Really?
Yeah. 10 years ago, this was, you shouldn't walk. Yeah. Super hip, super little bistro places, coffee shops. This is now the old school neighborhood compared to what's going on a little bit up the hill. Yeah. Speaking of old school, one of the developing factors was Finley Market. This used to be an old market zone. It's not a transit station. It's actually like a market house. Yeah? But that's the old part. That's rehab part. That's about 4 years old. Complete different destination. Nowadays you sit outside. Yeah? This is now here. Doors you can roll up. You have vendors in here. In summer, you actually have vendors here, pavilion tents. Yeah? Completely different. Look at that. Old facade, old shops. Yeah? Used to be a street. Now it's a pedestrian area. New paintings, new colors. Yeah? Up north in the crime-infested area, rundown neighborhood. This is an overview on a Saturday. See all these. You can find like soap, honey, all that. You can see the color setup. See, Cincinnati has actually some terrain. Yeah, this is a beer garden with live music. So the irony during the hurricane, I actually got the beer here, and someone was playing a blues version of Jimmy Buffett songs. Typical Florida flair, warm, 75 degrees, sunburned. Yeah? This is the house inside, just to give you an idea. Okay, let's stop here. Okay, guys, get you the and then here, one of the large breweries for design review, the outside facade. You can see how they actually implemented this with the red sandstone. This is the entrance area in the picture, and that's inside. That's the brew area on fermentation, and you literally sit here. That's actually the table where we took that picture. This is the second or third floor. This is not ground floor. You actually walk up on this. This is that area here. That seating area is the size of our classroom. So if you go to a place like Funky Buddha, this is Funky Buddha in one sector, and they have multiple sectors. They have capacity issues because they need to get more storage tanks, 40 barrels and all that, like 40 feet high. Yeah? Like if you look again, people sitting at that scale. And with that, yeah, this is last semester. Next few slides on the next PowerPoint is your work. And the reason I have the holy smokes this semester and added last semester is this is someone's work from last semester. And she did,
wow.
Exactly, she did a wow job for that, you know, show you that guys that. I don't really take old students' work too much into my classroom. Yeah. But she did an awesome job. The reason why this is fantastic is the idea how she started out, printed out the plan, and put like parchment paper on top of it, and started to plan and draw through this. Yeah? Really, really, really cool. She's going to be your judge next week. Yeah? She said she's coming. Huh?
What was that in the middle of water?
There's a water body, yeah?
Yeah, but it's not like
pedestrians.
Oh,
I think it was pedestrian stuff. Yeah, interconnected, all that.
So it's like a park, everything.
Yep. Speaking of, this is my last piece for today. Not just wine. Your site planning sketch. So what it is, yesterday around 5 o'clock I went up to Blackboard and downloaded everything that was posted by that time. And then between 6 and 9 I wasn't in the office and I came back. So I know there was actually 10 p.m. deadline. I know one student, I sent an email at 9 o'clock or 9-ish, where's your assignment? And I realized like this morning or later that night I realized, oh, there was actually 10 p.m. deadline, not 8. So, my bad. Alright, so Irma has something good. Irma caused me to actually be in Cincinnati, or chose to be in Cincinnati, and on the way to dinner with old friends from grad school, my Uber drove past our site planning sketch. Yeah? This is I-71. This is the on-ramp to get there. This is the bridge. This is the south side of the property. You can see there is a courtyard Marriott Hotel. Yeah? You can see nicely that is the slope area. Getting closer, passing. So here's the parking structure facing the interstate. You can see some apartment buildings or something. And I think this is retail and office building on top. And that's the hotel. The not so nice hotel rooms.
They charge $240 a night. And that hotel right there, it's a 3-star hotel.
Yeah, but I want to have the window the other way. Heidelberg is so near, and you can get a feel, if you look at the topography map, how steep that slope is actually. But again, some impressions. Then Google Maps shows it this way. So this is the on-ramp. Marriott Hotel, the last picture is facing this one. Yeah. and Google Maps wasn't really detailed about what's in there. Taste of Belgium is a waffle and pastry guy. He's from Belgium, that's the reason why he calls it. So a bunch of stores. If you look at the aerial photography again, 71, northbound is Williams, southbound is Smith, turning in Edmondson, the on-ramp again. And now I can see one problem we had, or you had in your design. Where are you going to do the connection to the property? I think this is a gas station, Speedway. So I put here a whole gas station on the corner. There's the existing buildings in play. This one. This used to, I think, is still one. This is
a house.
A dive bar. Cash only dive bar. I was in school sometime. And then Chase Dell, food, and again, you know, courtyard. Yeah. Is that a appealing site design? Not after this class.
Space.
I hope after this class you say, yeah, I could do better. Yeah. So let's take a look at circulation. We have main functions. Don't know exactly what that is. Season 25. Hotel, shopping, retail, apartments, I think. Yeah. Gas station, utilities. And then Chase and Dell, I don't know what else is in there. All right. Where are my entry points? Entry point 1 is here.
Isn't this from the freeway?